All right, guys, welcome back to the Let's Talk Ball pod. It has been a while, been a couple months since we last recorded towards the end of last season, but we are back and ready for the Premier League season. It's been a fun summer. This is your host, Tochi, aka Toach Talks Ball, and I'm here with my co-host, as always, Spain. And we are excited to get back into it, kind of catch up on what's happened over the summer with like the World Cup and everything there. Transfer season is upon us. And then before we know it, the Premier League season is going to be here. So before we jump into all that, Spain, how are you doing?
Doing well. Been enjoying this summer, especially with the World Cup being in the U.S. Had a lot of soccer to watch during the World Cup. Ready for some footy to be back on with the Prem not far away. But yeah, doing well. How about you?
Nice. Yeah, I'm doing well as well. I'm definitely ready for the season. It's been a nice little couple week break between World Cup and this because it felt like we kind of went straight into World Cup from the season. It didn't get much of a break. So it's nice to have a little bit of a break here. Of course, I'm still tuning into preseason and I'm a transfer junkie myself. So I'm still locked in on all that. But it's been a nice little break, but I'm ready to get back to it.
Yep. Same here.
So today, what we're going to cover, just to give you an idea from a high level, is talk about World Cup reflections, real quick thoughts on that. Then we're just going to talk about what the state of the Premier League looks like right now. It's early season, or not, it's before the season even started. So it's hard to say what's going to happen and all that, but we're going to do our best to kind of talk about what's happened so far. And then we'll do some more details on the transfer window and preseason specifically for Arsenal and United, and talk about some of our early season expectations for each team, and then wrap it up at the end. So yeah, starting from the top, let's talk World Cup. It was fun. I think Spain and I went to the Spain Cape Verde game here in Atlanta, which was awesome. Shout out to you for securing those tickets. And then I also made it to England versus Congo, one of the knockout round matches, which was really cool. And then what other game did you see?
I went to Egypt versus Australia in the round of 32 in Dallas.
Nice. How was Jerry World?
It was huge. It was really big. We were up there, but honestly, it wasn't as bad as I thought I was going to be. And the screen in there is so massive.
Yeah.
So you could watch that if you couldn't really see what was going on. But it was easy enough to see what was going on, except for like the corner nearest us was kind of cut off. So if anyone was like right along the corner, you couldn't see. You just look at the screen. It was a cool stadium. It was massive. I prefer Atlanta Stadium, which is not as big. The prices are unmatched at Atlanta, but the stadium itself was really nice and big in Dallas.
Nice. Yeah, I think we're both pretty lucky to have been able to go in person. It was really cool having it
For
in our
sure.
backyard, and just being able to, see such a historic event right in front of us. That was really cool to see. And then also, I think my other thing from the World Cup I want to touch on before we talk about some of the favorite moments and stuff like that. I think when I say favorite moments, I think my favorite thing about the World Cup was seeing how many kind of casual fans it converted. Like, I know that happens every single time a World Cup comes around, but it felt like this one especially, people were super locked in. And I'm sure it had a lot to do with the fact that it was in America. The US started off super well with the run that they put together and whatnot. And it was just very cool to see. It felt like a bit of a culture shift around the sport. And I've just got people texting me being like, hey, I want to pick a Premier League team. Who should I pay attention to and whatnot? Like, people got the itch and they're not ready to just put it back down. Like, they're like actually committing to wanting to be more fans of the sport, which is cool.
Yeah, definitely. It was that, and also just seeing all the people travel to the U.S. and enjoying their time here were the two best parts of the entire World Cup, and seeing all the content from that was really nice.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's talk on-field stuff. What was your favorite moment from the World Cup?
The two favorite moments, like just Cape Verde in general, will be such a surprise and fun, especially with us being able to see them in the opening game against Spain. We thought Spain were going to kill them, and then for them to hold on and get a 0-0 draw against them, and for the kind of the origin story of Rosinia becoming popular was really cool to see, and that not being a one-off was awesome to watch them progress through. And then that Argentina game was probably the highlight for me, just because I was watching it with my dad, and my brother after going to the Egypt Australia game. So we were in a bar in Dallas together watching that after having already seen Cape Verde in person once. And that game was just electric. So that was probably like the one moment, which is Cape Verde, and then watching that game with my dad and my brother.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I have to agree with like just their story in general is really cool to see. And then I think the very, very peak, like most I felt in the World Cup was definitely watching that Sydney Lopez Cabral goal
Yep.
go in
Yep.
against Argentina in that Cape Verde game. Like watching that goal go in, I was losing my mind. And I was just watching it at home by myself and I was losing my mind at the TV.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people feel the same way.
Yeah, I jumped up like when he kicked it, I jumped up and then it went in. My hands went like straight to my head. Looking at
Yeah.
my brother, he's got the same exact reaction as me. It
Yeah.
was so good. It was peak.
Electric, electric. And then I see you've gotten here the England versus Mexico game at the Azteca. I really enjoyed that one as well. I thought that was one of
Yeah,
the games of the tournament.
that game just had all the drama. It was at the Azteca for Mexico. Phenomenal game. It was just such a fun watch. So those two games in particular really stood out to me. But yeah, the England
Yeah.
Mexico game, just the energy between the two teams. Mexico's really up for it. There was a red card because there's a red card. Then England scored. I can't remember
Yeah.
exactly the
England
details.
got the PK. Harry Kane scored a PK
Yep.
after getting the red card to put them up 3-1, I think, because they were up 2-1 through the Jude back-to-back goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I forget how they got the PK, but Harry Kane puts them up 3-1, but then Harry Kane gives away a PK on the other end, and it made it 3-2, and it was nervy from there, but stayed
hmm
that way the whole game.
Yep. Yeah. So those are like the most fun parts, the most fun matches for me from the World Cup.
I hear that. And then moving on to biggest surprise from the tournament, I would say for me, uh, I think it was honestly seeing the way, maybe in hindsight, I shouldn't have been as surprised, but seeing the way that Argentina went from such a fan favorite in 2022, I feel like a lot of people were really rooting for them and Messi to
hmm
being the complete opposite at this World Cup was really interesting to me. And maybe I'm not so surprised that people turned on Argentina, but I think I was surprised to see how many people turned on Messi. And just like, I feel like he was getting a lot of hate by the end of the World Cup as well, which was interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if I've heard like as much like hate for Messi, but there's definitely a lot of hate for the Argentinian team, which they did no favors for themselves. So I'm not
Yeah.
surprised because of how they played, and they weren't like the most fun to watch, and then just the players' behavior was awful, and what they did
Yeah.
at the end after the end of the final was embarrassing and just so wrong.
It
So
was.
they really showed their character in that moment.
Yeah, they left a bad taste on my mouth the whole tournament, but then seeing them end that way, I feel like it was just kind of like, all right, now you're giving everyone like the vindication that they needed on
hmm
top of already having the haters against you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, were there any players in particular, not talking about teams, but players now that surprised you or you're maybe not surprised, but your opinion on them changed at this World Cup?
No one where my opinion changed, but two players, prem players that I like really that's I guess stood out to me were Isak and Odegaard, just really being
Hmm.
back to their best, especially Isak being out basically all of last year for Liverpool. I thought he looked
Hmm.
really sharp for Sweden, and then Odegaard running the show for Norway looked kind of back to his best, just on the ball a lot, really dictating the play, dictating the tempo. So those two players in particular for the Prem are going to be players I'm watching out for, and I think we're going to have strong starts to the season.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely interested to watch out for them, see how Odegaard plays this season because I know last season he was like took him a little bit to get going, but I think he still kind of picked it up by the end a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Isak is one that I'm really interested in because he's had such a crazy kind of story over the last year and a half with the transfer saga with Newcastle to Liverpool, and then I feel like as soon as he started kind of hitting his stride, he then broke his leg. So that was really interesting to see. I'm really interested to see Liverpool in general this season, but we
Mm-hmm.
could touch on that a little bit later when we talk about the Premier League stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I would say on my end, no one that really changed my opinion, but there were some players that I thought were that like stuck out. Like I really liked what I saw from Monzambi. I was
That's what
already
I
kind of
mentioned
going
him
in with
too.
I was going in with some high expectations for him, but he kind of exceeded my expectations as far as like what he was able to do, and I think that's part of why he got his move to Aston Villa this summer as well. So exciting to see him in the Premier League and in the Champions League as well, competing against the best players in the world because I think he's one that's going to be one to watch.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other World Cup talk? I know it's been a while. There was a lot that happened in the World Cup. I just wanted to hit on a few things from a high level there.
Yeah, and then Pochettino re-signing for the U.S. I think is really great for us. I wasn't expecting that. I thought he would move on, go to club
Yeah.
football, and I didn't know if he would be in, invested enough or interested enough to stick with us for another World Cup because it's like another 4-year commitment. I
Yeah.
believe is what he signed on for. But I think that's really huge for us because I don't think would be able to sign a coach of his caliber to take over. And apart from the Belgium game, I thought we looked really great in the World Cup and liked how he was setting us up and how he had us playing. So I think that's really great for the U.S. to keep him for 4 more years for the next World Cup.
Yeah, I think that's a great shout. I think a lot of people there were all those rumors kind of questioning his commitment to the team even before the tournament started. Apparently, people were like, "Oh, he's interviewing for the AC Milan job and whatnot." Like he's already kind of got one foot out the door, not going to be that committed. And then just to see the way that the U.S. started, and we really seemed like we were not just like fired up, but like it was well organized and like there was a method behind the madness that we had going on. And so I really appreciated the way Pop set the team up. And I feel like he got a good bit out of the team. Like you said, the Belgian match was a little bit disappointing. There was all the craziness with the Balogun red card and all that drama that going on. But I
Mm-hmm.
do think it'll be nice to have a little bit of continuity going into the next World Cup. I think we will have some hopefully better players available, and our current players will also be better. Like I don't really see too many people aging out besides maybe like Tim Ream, but other than that, should be like most of the same core players with a couple other younger players coming up through the system. I'm really interested to see what kind of youngsters come through. I wonder if that what's his name, Cavan. I don't know how to pronounce his first name.
Kevin
Cavan
Sullivan.
Sullivan. Cavan Sullivan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see if he ends up being someone that becomes involved in the first team U.S. picture by that time. He's what 16 right now,
Yeah, he's been
15.
playing really good for Philadelphia as of late since they
Yeah,
resumed the season. So
yeah.
if he sticks on his trajectory, he definitely should be in the team in 4 years.
Yeah, I've been actually paying a lot of attention to that Philly team. MLS is kind of sucking me in. I feel like I've been one that's like been very against the MLS, but I've
Mm-hmm.
been like kind of tapped in a little bit recently.
There we
Maybe
go.
it's just because nothing else is on, but
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying Philadelphia. I'm not like watching full games, but I'm definitely checking out highlights and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's two players like Calvin Sullivan I really like, and then the center back Neil Pierre in the
Yeah,
back.
he's
The kid's like six
big
seven,
dude. Yeah.
6'7", can jump out the gym. Like there's a crazy picture of him jumping and his knees are at like another player's head or something like that. But he seems a little bit techie on the ball, got decent skills and a good pass on him as well. I think Barcelona have been looking at him. Who knows if that'll actually happen eventually, but two really cool young prospects to be looking out for. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
really excited about those guys.
Yeah, Lewandowski just scored a brace, I think against
Yep.
Charlotte to beat Charlotte 2-1. And then there was that crazy banger of a goal this past week, a screamer from Evander. Did you see that?
I did not see that
Oh,
actually.
dude, you got to watch that. From FC Cincinnati hit a
Yeah.
banger from like 40 yards out. It was sick.
Wow. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I need to check that out. And then Heung-min Son scored it was at least a brace, like 2 goals in 3 minutes in the MLS All-Star match as well. So
Which was in
he's been
Charlotte.
doing his thing. Yep. That was cool to see. So maybe some big things coming for the MLS. I've been listening to some podcasts, kind of talking about how the MLS will try and take advantage of the post World Cup hype and stuff like that. So maybe that's something we talk about in a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more detail on a future pod.
Then last thing on like World Cup or FIFA is I'm real interested to see what happens with Infantino because reports coming
Yeah.
out lately that there's a big push to get him out, which would
Yeah.
be great because he's kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And he looks like he dropped the plans to sell like the rights of the World Cup to private equity, which is great. After there's a
Hmm.
big backlash for that, but it looks like even after changing his mind, that hasn't saved him, and hopefully he'll get voted out or get removed at some point. But it's still pretty
Yeah.
early on the talk on that, so hoping to get some good journalism and read a good piece on what's happening there behind the scenes.
Yeah. That's a great shout. I forgot to put that in the outline, but I think that's a really good call out. Seeing all the madness of that was crazy over the last probably like week or so. I know a lot of people were already like fed up with Inventino, so I think a lot of people are like, not only did you try and do this, but we're not going to let you get away with it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is
Yeah,
the perfect
actions,
time to
your
try and
consequences
oust
for
you
your
out.
actions. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, but thank God that's not going through. That would have been awful for the
Yeah,
game.
yeah. It was really cool to see everyone come together for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's now move on from World Cup and talk about the domestic league, specifically Premier League. We just want to do a little bit of a state of the Premier League, kind of talk about what are some of the biggest stories going on, biggest transfer news, and that kind of stuff, just league wide. And then we'll touch on Arsenal and United in more detail in a second. But starting from the top, I think the first question I've got on here is like coming into the season, there's been a lot of change and a lot going on. Who do you feel like is going to be under the most pressure as this next Premier League season starts?
Mm-hmm. With so much turnover in managers, especially at the top of the league, I feel like a lot of those teams, or like those managers, aren't really under pressure because they're new, so they'll be
Mm-hmm.
given some leeway. But for me, it has to be the Newcastle ownership, just because it looks like their project is completely falling apart. Isak left, Eddie Howe's gone now, and looks like Bruno G's hopefully coming to Arsenal any day now. So just like that project is kind of falling apart, and so their ownership to me is the most under pressure. Just because, like I said, team wise, all the top teams change the manager, but I feel like the fans at Newcastle should be expecting more and want more for the project that they were kind of
Yeah.
promised.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that. I think that's been a really interesting kind of story and saga to watch over the last probably 4 to 5 years because obviously we saw the huge investment come in, but they couldn't really spend all that money. And then I feel like they immediately, after they qualified for Champions League one year, they almost like were like, oh, yeah, we can just be a Champions League regular from this point on. And they kept doing this thing where they'd qualify for Champions League, and then the year that they're in Champions League, they have an off season, go back down, and then bounce back up when they aren't in the Champions League anymore, and they can play that kind of intense style of football that they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm kind of me personally, I'm kind of glad to see it. One, just because I feel like Newcastle, I don't know if it's necessarily their fans because I appreciate how passionate their fans are, but I think some of them started talking a little crazy, like being like, "Oh, we should be part of the. It should be a Big Seven now, or let's replace Spurs or United in the Big Six and stuff like that." And then when it came time to be a big club, starting like as of like last summer, they just got mogged in the transfer market over and over and over again. Their main targets were saying no, they couldn't bring people in. Isak left, they didn't really replace them well. And then it kind of kept happening, even going back to this summer. Like they really wanted Manzombie, and then all of a sudden, Aston Villa hijacked that deal from them. And then now their best players are leaving. It just kind of felt like you kind of saw the writing on the wall, and things kind of just crumbled all around them. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're kind of reverting back now to being like, all right, maybe we go back to maybe just more of a mid-table club, try and build with the youth, and trying to build something that's maybe a little bit more sustainable than what they had.
Yeah. Without really knowing what's went on in the background, I think they just couldn't get the revenue up to sustain like their vision. Because, like you said, they get
Mm-hmm.
into they bought a bunch of players. They get in the Champions League, which comes with a lot of money, but then they never had enough depth for the next season to once they're in the Champions League to finish high enough to remain in the Champions League. So they never got the revenue like enough consistent revenue from the Champions League. Plus, just they're not a historical club. I mean, they are a big like they have their fans and all, but being in the north, not having the biggest stadium,
Yeah.
just don't have the same revenues as the teams in
Yeah.
London and United and City.
Yeah.
So they could never really sustain it without being have like multiple years in the Champions League to really build out that squad and that depth.
Yeah, I mean, it's brutal to think that like because of PSR financial fair play rules, they had to sell Elliot Anderson, who just went
Mm-hmm.
for 115 million pounds,
Exactly.
homegrown player. And then I also felt like they were because of the market that they're in, maybe the area, like it was hard to attract really big players. And you got
Mm-hmm.
guys like Bruno G and Tonali looking around who are in their prime or peak of their careers thinking, if we're not going to be really good in the next 1 to 2 years, like why am I sticking around? And just kind
Yep.
of felt like, okay, Gordon was the first one to fall because I think they needed to make some money this summer. But then Tonali goes to Spurs for 100 some mil. And then looks like Bruno G is going to be gone. I really hope we can convince Lewis Hall to put up a bit of a fuss and leave. They don't need any more money, so they're going to make it really hard for United. But I would love to go get Lewis Hall. But those are probably, I mean, they sold two of their three best players. Looks like their third best player, Bruno G, is going to go as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could argue Lewis Hall is maybe their fourth best player.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just brutal. And I
Their
think Eddie
team
Howe kind of
coached.
saw that happening too, and he
Hmm
was like, "Yeah, I'm not sticking around for this rebuild here."
Yeah. Yeah. But I do kind of feel bad that they could just buy their way in like Chelsea and City did before PSR,
Yeah. Yep.
which is now phased out and profit sustainability or something is now in.
Yeah.
But is what it is.
Yep, it is what it is. Got to work within the parameters you got.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the under pressure, I don't think under pressure is maybe the right exact words for this, but I would also put Arsenal up there as far as highest expectations, just because everybody else this is in the big six and the big clubs has a new manager.
Yep.
Crazy fact that Michael Carrick is the second longest tenured manager in the big six, and he hasn't even been at United for a full year.
Yeah.
I think De Zerbi's like third, which is crazy. So
Arteta's
it's
the
been,
longest tenured in the league.
yeah, by a lot too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I feel like just Arsenal have the most stable environment and least amount of question marks. So I guess they should be expected to go on and, you know, win the league. Not, I don't know how easily they should win it, but I think that they probably have the highest expectations of anybody else. Everyone else
Yep.
is kind of like they could finish anywhere from like second to like seventh.
Yep. Totally agree.
Yeah. Out of all the teams that we've looked at, who do you think has improved the most this summer?
I don't know. The fact there's not that many, like no club is like tons. Spurs actually, they've probably made the most signings so far,
Mm-hmm.
and the most signings are going to impact their team. Granted, being in 17th place, there's really you can only really improve and go
You
up
can
from
only
there.
go up, yeah.
So I'd say Spurs, and
Yeah.
I'm waiting to see what other teams do in the transfer market. But yeah, definitely Spurs actually at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I think, yeah, at least on paper, I feel like it's got to be Spurs. It's really hard to tell who's actually going to improve. Like
Mm-hmm.
with the combination of new players coming in plus all the new managers, it's so hard to tell where things are actually going to lie. So I guess going back to what we were just talking about with like so much new, and that's why Arsenal's expectations are there. But yeah, looking at Spurs, I am impressed with how much of a pep in their step they've put into the transfer market. I guess they had to in response, but I
Mm-hmm.
also think De Zerbi came in with a lot of leverage. Was probably part of his like agreement to for why he said yes to Spurs last season, because he's come in and just thinking about their transfer business. They got Senesi on a free transfer, who I think is a good addition. They got Van Heck from Brighton, who I think is a good player. They brought in Andy Robertson, who I think was on a free as well.
He was afraid.
From the it was or was
I
not.
think he was.
Yeah, I think it was free. And then they got Tonali and Mateus Fernandez, who are two really good midfielders who are going to help them a lot. It looks like they're looking at Cody Gakpo. Who knows what Liverpool will let him go for? It looks like they're going to get Savinho as well. I mean, they might get. It's looking like a whole new starting 11
Yeah,
almost,
for real.
which is crazy. So I mean, I feel like with all those signings in the door, it's got to be Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested to see what they look like. I mean, because De Zerbi's a great coach, and I feel like he's someone where you can see an impact of his coaching methods pretty quickly. They look pretty good in preseason from what I've seen so far, but we shall see how the season progresses. I'm not really sure where to place them at the moment. And then the other team that I would say I think could improve just as far as like where they finished last season to where they are now, maybe not necessarily being that much better of a team on paper, is Chelsea.
Agreed.
And I picked them because I think Xabi Alonso is a really good manager, and most likely he does well. They added some more experience by going for Jordan Henderson and Danny Welbeck. Not that I think Jordan Henderson is going to, come in and play a bunch of minutes for them, but I think having those guys in and around the dressing room will help with like all the youth players that they've got around that team.
Yeah, like just
And
showing
then, yeah,
them how to be professional because there's so many young players, like how to
exactly,
show up on time, how to conduct yourself, what you need to do
exactly.
to like really raise your game.
Exactly. Just have people there to set the standards. They got Welbeck in the front. They got Henderson in the midfield. And then I guess LaCroix, whatever, can come in and be that kind of leader in the back. He's not too old, but he's like prime age, I think 25, 26 at least.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. And then them only playing one game a week, I think will help them a lot as well, which
Yeah,
is
for
part of
sure.
why I'm saying that.
I think Colwell being back
Yeah.
is going to be big for them because I think they were
Yeah.
just so weak at center back last year and could never really get a steady partnership going.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a fair shot as well. I think he's a really good player and should help them out a lot.
And if Cole Palmer is
Um,
back to his best,
oh yeah,
then that'll be huge for them because he was injured all of last season. We hear he had the whole summer off, so it'll be interesting to see like what he actually looks like if he is back and healthy. Because don't really know. I mean, he shows some really good, like he has some really good seasons, scored a ton of goals, but I haven't seen that in a
hmm
while. So we'll see.
yeah.
If he's back to his best, that'd be huge for them.
Yeah, I'm expecting him to be sharp, and I think that actually goes back to just like a team wide. Maybe the team itself will look a bit sharper as well, just because I will give Chelsea their credit because they had a pretty good season prior to last season, and then they went straight into Club World Cup and made it all the way to the end of the Club World Cup. Barely had any time off before the Prem started, so I think a lot of their team was kind of struggling for fitness a bit there as well. I could understand if
Mm-hmm.
they kind of tired out, so they should all be coming in and much more fresh. Now looking at clubs that have the biggest questions, I know we just talked about how a lot of teams just have a lot of questions around them with all the new managers and new players coming in, but is there anyone in particular you could pick out?
The biggest questions. I mean, I'll let you take this one to start because I see who you got in and I agree with that.
Yeah,
So you can take it.
yeah. Yeah, for me, I if I had to pick one, I would say Man City, and it's purely because in one window you have to replace Rodri, Bernardo Silva, and Pep. I know Rodri's not officially gone, but I do think that will happen. If I was a
I
betting
hope he
man,
leaves.
I hope it does as well. If it doesn't, that's a little bit easier. But if they have to replace Pep, Bernardo Silva, and Rodri, those are like the three leadership pillars in that Man City team, especially Pep coming from the top. But Bernardo Silva was kind of that veteran guy that just kind of went around, did everything, helped you control matches to a whole different level. And then Rodri, again, veteran presence, who kind of is like one of the guys that those are the two guys that on the field that really knit everything together for City. So without them, I'm really interested to see who steps up in their absence, like what kind of style of play they're going to do under Maresca. Like I assume they're not going to deviate too much, but it's going to be very interesting to see how they try and cope with all those changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if they lose Rodri, I think there's a good chance they won't finish in the top four and could actually struggle this year.
Yeah. Because I mean, they'll have the same attackers, and I think their attack will be pretty good, but I don't know. I struggled to see how their midfield is going to survive losing Bernardo Silva and Rodri,
I mean,
even
they're
as good as I
losing.
think Elliot Anderson is.
Yeah, they're losing the best manager in the world, arguably the greatest of all time. So there's got to be a
Yeah.
drop off afterwards, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um, yeah, as far as other teams with questions, I will say I don't think I'm too worried about this, especially if you guys get Bruno G in. But one thing I'm watching closely is how Arsenal copes with like I feel like you guys had to have Declan Rice, Saliba, and Saka play so many minutes, and they were almost like limping through the end of last season and the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And Saliba's already going to be out for an extended period of time. I don't know if you guys are planning on replacing him with the center back or if you're just kind of going to go with who you got at the moment. And then Declan Rice looked like I mean, all the reports coming out of the World Cup was that he's like really trying to manage injuries. We saw
Yeah,
Saka
taking
was
pain
like,
meds, injections.
yes. Saka was being limited with his minutes at the World Cup because of his Achilles and I don't know what else he's got going on. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested to see if you guys manage them more or how you kind of cope with that
Yeah.
come the end of come the beginning of the season at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard we're looking for a center back, but hard to say. I haven't heard any like strong rumors. Heard Khan's name being thrown out, but
Yeah.
not sure how likely that is. I think we'll be okay if we don't sign a center back, but I definitely would prefer to sign one than not. With Saliba
Mm,
being out for months, and who knows really how long, especially with a back injury, those can really be hard to get over. If we get Bruno G, I feel a lot better about Rice's minutes just because I feel more comfortable
yeah.
rotating him. We were able to play Lewis Skelly at midfield come into the last
Hmm.
season. I don't know why he wasn't given more minutes there earlier in the season, but that's
Yeah.
also huge for us. So hopefully we would rotate more at midfield and give Rice more time off because he played an ungodly number of minutes over the
Yeah.
course of last year.
Yeah. I think Lewis Skelly could really help out. It looks like he's doing pretty well in preseason so far as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see. We already kind of talked about kind of winners of the transfer window, talking about Spurs and all the players that they brought in so far. Obviously, that can change because there's still a lot of time left in the transfer window.
Yep.
Biggest losers, we kind of touched on that as well. I think it's safe to say that that is Newcastle at the moment, just with them losing all the players that they have and not really replacing with players of nearly the same quality. Um, and then which club still has the most work to do? I will let you take this one since I think you put the note in here.
Mm-hmm. I think Liverpool have a lot to do of like the
Yeah.
big teams. Further down, I'm not as like tapped into rumors of what the teams need as much, but Liverpool need a replacement for Salah. I'm assuming they're going to go for they're trying to get Barkley. I know that whether they get them or not,
Yeah.
we'll see. I think that's likely. He'll probably play on the left because that's where he plays most of his time. So I don't really
Yeah, I'd assume
know
so.
if they'll move someone over to the right or what they're going to do there, but they'll have like a good winger to replace Salah, even if it's on the other side. They need a right
Mhm.
back. They need a defensive mid, in my opinion, because I don't think Gravenberch and McAllister really are defensive enough. And then Szoboszlai's not really defensive enough either, even though he can play right back and play anywhere on the pitch because he's so good. And then they also need center back depth. They got rid of Konate. Van Dijk is getting older. So I just think they have a lot of signings to make, and I'm not really seeing them move that quickly.
Yep. I've been seeing a lot of chatter about Liverpool's squad depth over the last couple of days, like last 48 hours. And a lot of people are pretty much saying the same things you are. Like they just have so much work to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am just worried about that squad in general, especially that back line. Like you said, Konate's gone. Van Dijk's getting up there in age. Their one young center back that they signed last season is coming off an ACL injury. So who knows what he'll look like.
I heard he was looking good.
Yeah, you heard he was looking good?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I haven't heard much on him,
but I think he played more of
a
defensive mid in this past game.
Gotcha. And then right back, I don't really like Frimpong at right back, and Connor Bradley's very injury prone, and yeah, so they just have a lot more question marks than they do answers.
Yeah.
I think Barkalow coming in will be huge for them, and I'm interested to see how Areola puts everything together. Like I do think he's a floor raiser, so I think he has the ability to kind of have Liverpool still looking pretty good, even if their top end talent maybe isn't as good as it's been in past years. But the one thing I did see is that I don't know how true this is. I got to fact check this. This is a tweet that I saw on Twitter, so don't shoot the messenger. But I think I saw that like you're only allowed to have like 17 non-homegrown players, and right now they have 16. So if they sign Barcola, they're going to be at the limit. So they kind of need to sell players in order to buy more as well. So that's also part of what's going on.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I think they got to figure out how to sell Curtis Jones. I don't know if you saw the craziness going on with Curtis Jones and Szoboszlai and the captain's armband and stuff like that after their preseason game. But I think they could get a decent fee for him. Seems like he's kind of disenchanted as well.
Really want him, and that's close to happening, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I think I saw it was AC or did you see Inter? I saw Inter Milan, or maybe I saw one of the Milan teams, and then I also saw Newcastle are also interested in trying to put their name in the hat as well. So
I think that'd be solid signing for Newcastle.
I agree. I think he's a quality player. I think he could just do with a change of scenery.
But I mean, if Liverpool do get some of these signings done and Areola gets them playing well, I could see them also having a really good season because I mean, Szoboszlai is great. Wirtz is a great player when he's at his best. If Izak's back to his best, if Ekitike gets healthy again, they have Barcola. I mean, and then their defense is solid. They can find a center defensive mid or figure out a midfield rotation that keeps things solid for them. They could have a really good season too. So I really don't know what to think of Liverpool at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a recurring theme here is that it's just too early to tell with a lot of these teams, and there's too much time left in the window to say like what these teams are going to look like. Going into some more Premier League prediction type stuff. Early shouts for best signing of the summer. I know we were going back and forth like, we're not really sure who to pick, but one of the names we threw out was Sangare to Brentford. I think he's a really good player. He was one that I definitely would have been happy with if he ended up at United. I think that's a pretty good fee for him, and he's one of those players that I wouldn't be surprised if he has one good season at Brentford and all of a sudden people are putting him in like the 80, 90 million midfielder type bracket.
Hmm.
So we'll see.
Yeah, Brentford have a good history of signing good players too. So
Yeah,
I
I
think
trust their department.
exactly. I think that's going to be a good signing. And then we also were talking about Manzabi. I think that's also a great
Yeah.
signing for Villa.
Yeah. I'm super personally excited to see Monzambi. I think the business that Villa have done, they were my number one enemy last season. Now I might actually be rooting for them. I won't say it out loud to any Villa fans, but I will be rooting for them just between Monzambi and I really want to see Garnacho. I love Unai Emery's kind of like I can fix him kind of complex with these kind of forgotten attackers. He did it with Marcus Rashford, tried to do it with Jadon Sancho, didn't quite work out with him as well. Did it with Marco Asensio the same year that Rashford
Yeah,
was
yeah.
there. Tried to do it with Daniel Malin, maybe Tammy Abraham. We'll see, but I think he loves a broken attacker.
Hmm. Their midfield will be interesting with Tielemans leaving and then Onana's injury, which really sucks for Onana, tearing his ACL in the
Yeah,
World Cup. This
yeah,
player I like.
me
So it'll
too.
be interesting to see what they have in midfield. Have they made
Yeah,
any
that's true.
center mid signings?
Um,
Zombie's more of an attacking.
Jao Gomez, like you said,
Oh yeah, Joe Gomez. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, Jao Gomez should be a solid addition. Kamara, I think, is someone that's ready to take a pretty big step up. I think a
Hmm.
lot of people at Villa rate him really highly. They'll still have Super John McGinn
Yeah.
in the mix there. I'm trying to think who else. I don't know. I feel like Tielemans was definitely like their best midfielder. So
Hmm.
we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Surprises or biggest flops. I don't really have a candidate for biggest flop yet. I do
Yeah.
think a lot of the players that have gone this summer have gone for outrageous fees, but I think everyone's going for outrageous fees, so it's hard to pick out one that's going to be a flop to say.
Hmm.
First manager under pressure. I have a couple here, and this is more just like speculation. I don't really feel that strongly about them, but the two that I put here was one was Iraola, and not because I think he's a bad manager. I actually rate him really highly. It's just he's like kind of one of the managers that's coming into that doesn't have the kind of big club pedigree to his name. So I think if things aren't going well for Liverpool early on, it could get a little bit of pressure going on there because a lot of people were looking at Xabi Alonso thinking he's right there. Why would you not just go get him?
Hmm.
And then they ended up making their bet on Areola. So if he doesn't end up working out as quickly as you'd like, I could see things getting a little toxic potentially there, or people at least starting to question his background as a manager and whether he can do it at a bigger club. And then the other one was Maresca, just because I've been already hearing chat even before he got hired that Maresca is pretty much just like this is a safe guy. He's been at City before. He knows the club. We don't want to like if we sign another manager post Pep, there's going to be too much pressure on him. So Maresca is kind of just like a nice little free hit of a manager, bring someone in and just be like the little transition until they go get their next big name manager, which I think everyone's saying is lining up to be company once he finishes his business at Bayern.
Interesting.
So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, my shot for first manager under pressure is Carrick. Just because I
Yeah.
don't know, I don't believe yet. I haven't seen enough to fully believe that he's a great manager. He's going to have pressure because he was an interim hire and no one was really sure about whether he should be converted to full time, given the full time job.
Yeah.
And there were plenty of people, I think, like Gary Neville, including, said no matter what, he should not be the full time manager, no matter where they finish. And he ended up blowing expectation out of the water with getting you guys up to third, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And then more games, Champions League this season. There's gonna be a lot more pressure. Teams gonna be more set up to play you guys because they've seen how you play under Carrick from last season. They're gonna put more effort into preparing for you guys because you had to finish in third.
Mm.
So I think it could be Carrick. Granted, your
Yeah.
first two games are against promoted teams, so probably won't be too early,
Yeah.
unless things go really bad, and then it would be really early if you get bad results against the first two promoted teams. But that's just my shout and like he's tenured longer than most of the other big clubs. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair. I think we'll see. Going back to what you said about people knowing how we play, that's actually a sneak peek to the United section I'm about to talk about because he's switching things up a little bit in terms of style
nice.
of play. So I'm very interested to see how that pans out this season and how much it helps or hurts us.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's a good shout as far as like he was an interim. And I honestly, at this point, it's funny that you say that. I kind of forgot how much like back and forth there was on whether or not he should be hired and whether like we were going down the Ole route again and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be really interesting to watch and monitor. But I am feeling honestly really, really good about Carrick at the moment. He did secure, since being hired, secured the most points in the league. From the point that he's hired till the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping we can at least pick up like 80% of that, like do like 80% of that. I know it's going to be hard to do 100% of that given like we were only playing once a week. It was the end of the season when other teams are in other competitions and stuff like that. But I'm hoping we can at least maintain some type of momentum going into the season to help us out there.
Yep.
And I do think it'll be a bit of an advantage that Carrick is one of the longer tenured managers, even if it's just 6 months coming in, knowing the players and things like that. I don't really have a great hot take that I'm willing to stand by for right now. That was one of the categories, but I'm going to keep an eye on that one for a future pod in the next couple of weeks before the season starts, once we see kind of how things are shaping up more. And then let's talk early top 4 predictions before we jump into United and Arsenal.
I can have a fun hot take that's really just for fun. Vini Jr. will win the Golden Boot.
Wow. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. That's been an awesome saga to follow.
Yeah.
I figured we were going to touch on that during the Arsenal transfer news section, but that's been really cool to see.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get down there, but I had nothing else, so might as well throw out a fun one.
Fair enough. I like it. I mean, I think that's a great shout if he ends up making the move.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Early top 4 predictions. I will start with mine, and then I'll let you go to yours. I feel like once again we've said pretty early to tell, but this is like if things started right now, I would say Arsenal probably finish first or most likely to finish first. For me, I'm going to put United second, just because I'm really high on what I'm seeing from United, but it will fully depend on how we finish out our transfer window. Third, I'm going to put Chelsea because I expect them to be better. I expect Palmer to be better, all the things that we discussed earlier. And then fourth, I'll put City just because Liverpool have a lot of work to do, and I'm not sure how much of that work they'll end up getting in before the window ends. Mm-hmm. They seem like they're in a little bit more of like a weird place, just leadership-wise and everything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I really don't like going on the record this early, having to do a top 4, just because it's so hard to pick. But I'm going to do Arsenal finishing first. I think we were the best team last year. I'm an Arsenal fan. Mm-hmm. This is the easy one. And then like 2 through 4, I don't really know what order, but I have Chelsea, United, and Liverpool. I think City are going to lose Rodri. That's going to be big, really hurt them. I think Liverpool are going to make more signings and get it sorted out before the window closes. And I kind of like their squad if they can fill it out. And Iraola. Chelsea, we talked about with 1 game a week and healthy players back. And then United, just because they were looking good towards in the last year and have a lot of continuity coming into this year.
Fair enough. Well, these are set in stone. These are official top 4 predictions as of August 3rd, 2026. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure we will revisit this and probably do some almost like full table predictions closer to the season.
Yeah.
Or actually, I think we did it after like the first, or I think we did it before the season, and then we did a second revised one, like once the transfer window had closed.
Yeah. Let's do that again. That was fun.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, let's do some deeper dives into United and Arsenal. I can hit on United first, and then we can go over to Arsenal in a second.
Sounds good.
All right. So I kind of have this separated out into first talking transfers, second talking about what preseason has looked like so far, and then kind of looking ahead to the season and what I expect. So transfer business, if I had to give it a grade right now, I think I'm somewhere around like a B minus. I say B minus because I like the deals that we've done so far. And I would be happy starting the season. Like if first game happens and we haven't signed anyone else, I'm okay starting the season like that, but I think we need more signings in if we want to be able to sustain whatever form we start the season with, because I think we've got some injury-prone players and a lot of question marks kind of around our backline, midfield, really our backline and midfield, and then a little bit of the striker position as well. But as far as the deals that we've done so far, I really like bringing in Tielemans for 35 mil, that release clause. I personally feel like pound for pound, that is one of the deals of the summer. I think Tielemans is a really, really good player. And I think he's someone that maybe people don't appreciate enough because he plays at Villa.
Hmm.
But I think he's going to come in and make a really big impact for us. Like, I think he's someone that can kind of dictate the game with his passing. He's a player that doesn't get sped up by the players around him. Just a cool mind. And people forget he was a captain of Anderlecht at like 18 years old. So he's like a real leader personality and whatnot. So I think he's just a great player to have around, and to be able to get that for 35 mil when you see the likes of other players going for 70, 80, whatever. I think it was a good find by our recruitment team. And we've got young midfielders ready to come in as soon as he kind of ages out, because he is a little bit on the older side, but nothing crazy.
Hmm. How old is he?
And then I think he's like 29, maybe.
Hmm.
Let me fact check that really quickly. Yeah, he's 29 years old.
Nice.
So not crazy old, but just still. I think he's at a good age where we have a couple young midfielders that I'm really excited about coming through the academy, where I think it'll match up well. And then Andre Santos for 50 mil from Chelsea. That one was a little bit random, but he was someone that I was actually hoping that United would buy from Chelsea before in the previous summer. So I was happy to see him join. I didn't see too much of him at Chelsea last season, but he was really good at Strasbourg. I'm pretty sure he won the League One. If it wasn't player of the season, I guess it would have been the young player of the season at the time. And he's been a captain of the youth Brazil teams, and he was captain of Strasbourg. So he's another player that seems like a big personality, really good character to have in the dressing room. He's only 22 years old. And at first, I was probably like 50-50 whether I like the price tag or not. And right now, I'm at like 75%. I like the price tag based on what I've seen from him in preseason. He is just one, progressive passing, which is something like central progressive passing is just something we've lacked from that position for so long. He plays like a number 6, and he punches it through the lines over and over and over again. I think progressive passes per 90, or line breaking passes per 90, I should say. He was third in the league behind just Rodri and Van Heck from Brighton. He was ahead of guys like Adam Wharton and like other really good midfielders. So I was really impressed by that, and you can see it immediately in the way that he's been playing in preseason. But what has really impressed me the most is what he does defensively, because he's not the fastest guy. He doesn't have the legs to cover those large distances the way you see like Declan Rice do or something like that. But he is so smart in the way that he positions himself that he doesn't really have to do that, because he's just kind of always in like, I'm honestly been shocked about how often he just feels like he's in the right place at the right time. And him and Mason Mount have a really good playing relationship going on right now. We haven't seen guys like Bruno, Manu, Tielemans come back from their international duty stuff or that break that they've had yet. So it's been Andre Santos and Mason Mount, and they look really good in this new system that Carrick's been running. But B- because going back to my grade, because we still need that third midfielder, still need a left back, and I think we could do with another attacker, especially if Joshua Zirkzee leaves, which he's rumored to do. So that's how I feel about the transfers so far. Yeah.
Any players out there that you'd like to get for those positions?
Yeah. My ideal end of the window is go get Lewis Hall at left back. I think he's the perfect left back replacement for Luke Shaw, who's going to be out of contract at the end of this season, I believe.
He kind of is like a Luke Shaw 2.0, maybe a little more mobile.
Yeah.
Kind of just the way he looks, the kind of like same stature, blonde hair, kind of runs the same way, in my opinion, without watching too closely. But yeah, Luke Shaw 2.0.
This feels so perfect as far as succession plan. Bring him in, let him play with Luke Shaw for a season, learn from him a little bit, and then the position is his for the next 5 to 7 years, however long we can hold on to him. I rate him really highly. I think he's one of the best left backs in the league, if not the world. Like, I thought the way his performance against Lamine Yamal in the Champions League last season was really, really impressive. And I think he could go to the very, very top. So I'm like, if you have a chance to secure a left back like that, that can really just kind of sort the position for you for the foreseeable future. I think he's only 21, maybe 22 years old. I think you go and make that deal happen, even if Newcastle are going to try and charge a lot. I think we were expecting to spend more on our midfielders than we did. And then we ended up getting Santos and Tielemans for a combined 85 mil. Hopefully that means we can spend a little bit more on other position like a left back.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the third midfielder, I would love to get one of Baleba or Tchouaméni. That's like obviously super ideal. I don't know if either of those will happen, but if Rodri goes to Real Madrid, I think that shakes things up. And then there's so many dominoes that have yet to fall. Like if Vini ends up staying at Real Madrid are definitely going to need to sell somebody big to make up for the money that they've spent this summer. And I feel like you could get a lot of money from Tchouaméni from us. And also, they already have Valverde, they'll have Rodri, Bernardo Silva's in that midfield room now, depending on where you count him as a player. And so is Tchouaméni really going to want to take like a squad player role? I don't know. So, and they did give him they presented a new verbal agreement on a contract, but I have not seen anything about that officially being signed. And I think, I don't know, for it to be delayed this long, I do think that they may be waiting to see how some cards fall before maybe making that decision and putting pen to paper.
Yeah.
So that'll be really interesting. But honestly, at this point, I might even prefer Baleba because I think what the midfield is missing, I really like Tielemans as a passer. He's kind of got the long range passing and kind of dictating the game under his belt. Menu is a good kind of other option at that number 8 position. I really like what I'm seeing from Andre Santos as far as like Andre Santos, Menu, Tielemans are going to be really, really good on the ball for us. The only thing we don't have is just kind of like that really leggy midfielder that can, if the game gets opened up, really just kind of eat ground and stop transitions. And I think that is Carlos Baleba to a T. He wants to join us, has been wanting to join us for so long. And I'm like, just go pay Brighton the money. I know people don't want to invest in him because he had an off season last year, but I know what I saw with him. I think he's a potentially world-class player if he can put it all together. And even if he doesn't, I think what he brings just in terms of pure athleticism and legs in midfield is still worth a lot of money to us. So I would love to go get him. And then as a rogue shout, again, this depends on the dominoes and how they fall. But if Xerxes leaves, we're going to need a backup striker. I think Cunha and Mbeumo can kind of play a kind of false 9-ish type number 9 for us. And it'll work pretty well because it seems like Carrick likes kind of like a fluid front 3 to 4 players anyway. But in games where Sesko can't play or if Sesko gets hurt, I would love to get another striker in the door. And again, if the dominoes fall this way and Real Madrid need to raise some funds, Real Madrid just went and signed another striker. They've got players that can play striker. Go put in a cheeky little bid or see what you can do and go get Endrick. You know, I feel like he would fit United. Like he's just like, he's got the kind of aura and personality around him. His favorite, they call him Bobby because he loves Sir Bobby Charlton, the United legend.
So
I just feel like he does. I don't know.
That's
I guess
so
it's
random.
from playing FIFA as a kid. He like used to play with Bobby Charlton all the time on it or something.
Yeah, when he an Ultimate Team or something, or one of like the.
I guess it must be. I need to look up that exact story behind him. But yeah, that's why they call him Bobby because he loves Sir Bobby Charlton. So I'm just like, you know, I feel like the stars are aligning there. We can give him playing time that he might not get at Madrid. So I think if I had a dream, it would be Lewis Hall, Baleba, Endrick, or Lewis Hall to Tchouaméni, another striker. So we'll see.
Yeah, Endrick, that would be really interesting because I do think he's a good player, but
Mm-hmm.
still really raw. Haven't seen enough of him like consistently, but yeah, it could be interesting.
Yeah, he is very raw, and that's why I'm like, you know, I'm happy because we still have Cunha or Mbeumo that can kind of step in, you know, play more regularly at the number 9, and we've got the right wing depth. So where if Mbeumo's playing at the number 9, we still have Ahmad and then Shea Lacey, who I think is ready to contribute this season at right wing, and then at left wing, Cunha is our left wing, but if we have to play him at the false 9. We still have Rashford who can play on that left wing, or Dorgu. Dorgu's not an ideal left wing profile, but I still think we could figure it out with that group of attackers.
Yeah, what do you think is happening with Rashford? Is he going to stay?
I'd be more than happy for him to stay, and I just don't see what big enough club comes in. I don't think he'll go to any club that's not in the Champions League. That's just not really worth it to him, nor can I think any club that's not in the Champions League afford his wages. And so I would not be shocked at all if he ended up sticking around and ended up just kind of being a squad player, kind of rotating with Cunha on that left-hand side. Because we were kind of going for a profile pretty similar to him. Like we wanted a left winger that can stick around and hold width if they need to, and kind of just offer a bit of like 1v1 dribbling ability and that kind of stuff, and just a little bit more creativity from the left wing. And if we can't move him on, I'd rather not just move him on for pennies. Might as well just keep him around. I think a lot of the reason that he was ousted in the first place was his wages are way too high, but his wages were way too high for a player that didn't fit Ruben Amorim's system, that didn't really play with traditional wingers. But now that we're playing with traditional wingers again, it's like he's worked with Michael Carrick before. He came up through the youth academy when Michael Carrick was still on the team. They know each other well. I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up staying, especially because if he leaves, we probably have to buy a replacement, and I feel like it's gonna be hard to get a replacement as good as Rashford for a decent price in a summer where we're already kind of struggling to sell players, because Ugarte was supposed to bring in a decent chunk of change for us, but he tore his ACL or whatever happened there. So we'll see.
If we don't get Vini, I think he'll end up at Arsenal.
You think so?
Yeah.
Have you been seeing some rumors about that?
Yeah, if they're talking about left wing options, and like there's Vinny, and there's no one can think of anyone else, and I can't either. And Rashford's like the next is out there, so I think,
I mean, I remember seeing some stuff floated around Rashford even going back to last summer for you guys. So I wouldn't be shocked to hear that either.
But I think that'll be a pretty late stage, like end of the window thing, like
very end of the transfer window, like last couple of days.
Exactly.
100%. Like I think the club is briefing that they're okay reintegrating him, but I think ideally we would move him on. So we'll see what happens there. Let's move on to preseason, and then we can move on to Arsenal for you. So just real quick, preseason, I alluded to this earlier, but I've been really enjoying the performances that we've had. I usually try not to draw too many like conclusions from preseason as far as like, you know, if a team wins or loses, whatever, like it's preseason, teams are just testing stuff out. Players are getting up to speed. I mean, half of our first team players, like we don't have Bruno, don't have Manu, don't have Tielemans, who are all three probably going to be starter level players for us. You know, a lot of players just aren't involved and back in the picture. A lot of our defenders aren't. Like Lenny Yoro is playing right back right now, which is interesting. But the performances themselves have been really encouraging because Carrick has switched up the style of play from last season. Last season, we were very transition based, played pretty direct, didn't have a whole lot of control or possession, or as much control and possession in midfield as I would have liked. And now you can tell there's a very much like emphasis on playing out of the back, small distances between the midfielders, kind of like little 1-2 link up play in the midfield between Santos, Mason Mount, and then whatever players are coming close. So I think that's going to be really interesting because it should help us control games more. The games will be less chaotic, but I think we now have the midfielders to actually pull that off versus last season we just didn't. Casemiro didn't like to kind of keep the ball as much. And we didn't have players that were willing to, you know, that were capable of that. And I think the additions of Tielemans and Santos are two players that will be really good at that. So I'm excited to see how that goes. What else? Standout players from the preseason so far. I just want to give a quick shout. I've already shouted out Andre Santos multiple times. Mason Mount is playing like our best player right now, and reports coming out of like camp and stuff are that he's playing like a different player right now, which is really interesting. A lot of United fans are freaking out that he's playing well because everyone's like, he's going to get hurt inevitably. But they don't want Mason Mount playing so well to be a hindrance on who we go for as our third midfielder.
Oh, yeah.
Because right now our midfielded room is Kobe Manu, Tielemans probably as the number 8s, Andre Santos as a number 6, Mason Mount kind of as like a hybrid, kind of can play 10, 8, or 6 for us. And everyone wants us to go sign another number 6. But then if we do, if that player is really good, where does Mason Mount fit into the picture? Because the way he's playing, he almost is like playing in a way that he like dang near has to be a starter. He's like playing that well right now. So it's just going to be really interesting to see like what kind of issues that causes as far as like what players actually see the field. But it's a great problem to have as a team, I'll say. So shout out to Mason Mount. And then the other standout player for me is Shea Lacey. I think he's looked really good. He's starting all the preseason games with the first team players as well. Not even like, because United have been doing start the first team players and then bring in all the academy kids at once. And he goes off the field when the academy kids come on and he starts with the first team guys. So, and he's looked sharp as well. Like he hasn't looked out of place. He doesn't really look like a kid out there. He looks like a guy that's ready to contribute this season. So he's one that I'm going to be watching for really closely. Because he was supposed to be, people were thinking he could get first team minutes with the United first team back when he was like 15, 16 years old. They were rating him that highly. It was just injuries that kind of set him back. So now that he's looking healthy again, I think watch out for expectations for him going higher and higher as the season goes on if he can stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Other interesting things were Lenny Yoro right back, and then Aiden Heaven also looks really good playing left center back for us. A lot of people have been calling for him to play more minutes than Lissandro Martinez going back to last season. And he's just kind of been patiently waiting his turn, but it looks so good every single time he plays. So I'm really interested to see what this season looks like for him.
Nice. Yeah, that's someone Arsenal might be regretting getting rid of. Aiden Heaven, because he looks like a really good prospect.
Yeah, 1.5 mil for him is looking like a bit of a coup.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's it on United, though. I don't really have. I guess let me give my expectations going into the season, then we can move on. My expectations are just that United, at worst, I think should finish fifth. Qualify for Champions League again. I think a lot of teams could be good. So if we finish fifth, I wouldn't be shocked. But anything lower than that will be really, really disappointing. I think the goal is just to secure back-to-back Champions League qualifications. I think is really the goal for the team. My target, based on how I think things will go and us actually finishing the transfer window somewhat strong, would be secure top three again. So really cement yourself in that top three and kind of get yourself out of like will we qualify for top four or not, or will we qualify for Champions League kind of concerns pretty early on would be awesome. And then stretch, if we really nail the window and I don't know, maybe do another surprise deal for a big player too, would be a title challenge. Maybe not necessarily win it, but just be in and around the mix pretty late into the season.
Yeah, that sounds fair to me, especially with how the top four is looking. It's really hard to, like we already mentioned, really hard to pick who's going to finish up there. I think that's really reasonable shouts.
Yep. So that's it for United. I will let you move on to Arsenal.
All right. So talking about transfer business, what I graded so far, I wrote down C, but maybe like a D, just because we've made 2 signings so far. Zolis, who's looking good so far, left winger from Club Brugge, Greek. I think he's 24 years old. Paid, I think, 40 million for him. I think he's a really good signing at 24 years old. We got rid of Trossard. He looks like a really good Trossard replacement. Looks to play very similarly. A lot of cutting in, a lot of shots on goal. Good finisher, it looks like. So that's a great signing. But our only other signing so far is Melier, who's our third choice goalkeeper signing that we might have got for free from Leeds. I'm not really sure. But that's it so far. So it's kind of hard to grade that. I mean, you can't give a good grade when you've made 2 signings and one's a third choice goalkeeper. So I'll give it a D so far. But there's plenty of room for upside and to turn that into like an A signing based on who we could sign. Biggest remaining needs is left wing and center back. Left wing for sure. That's been our weakest point of the team for a few seasons now. Everyone knows that's what we need to sign. And then center back, just with Saliba being injured, we could use some more depth there, someone to fill in until he gets back. I think Mosquera was really good last year. We got a lot of defenders that can play outside back or center back, so I'd be okay with Mosquera playing there. Ben White, I'm not really hating Cop because he's left-footed, but we'll be okay if we don't sign someone, but ideally we will sign like a Konza or someone. I really wanted John Stones on the free transfer. I think he would have been awesome, but unfortunately he went to Inter.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, left wing, I think we are going to get Bruno Guimaraes. I'm not sure how long that's going to take. There were rumors he was going to have his medical today on Monday, but that's not happening right now. But I think it's going to happen. I think Newcastle is being a little stubborn, but I'm very confident in that going through.
Yeah, I think that will too. I think it's probably a matter of days, and I'm sure maybe the little bit of it is like, hey, we have an agreement, but let's not say anything while we try and work out how we're going to replace him as well. I could see a little bit of that going on, but I think you guys end up getting Bruno G, which I think is going to be a really good signing for you guys. I think he's a really good player, going to be a great kind of just option to add into the team, and I think it also helped a little bit with like I feel like Bruno G will bring a little bit of, I don't know how to describe it, maybe a little bit more excitement into the team. You know, I
Hmm.
feel like he's a good progressive passer. He
Yeah,
got goals in him. Like he can bring a little bit more speed and snappiness into the attack for you guys.
agreed. And just like more grit and like
Yeah, a little bit more bite.
meanness to the team because we
Yeah.
kind of lacked that without like Ben White isn't really mean, but he's enough of his like kind of shit housing out there, but he
Yeah.
doesn't get too many minutes to bring that. So I think Bruno Jr. will be
Hmm.
a really good addition for us. I really like his passing, his progressive passing. He can switch the ball well. He can take minutes off of Rice. He can play with Rice. So I think
Hmm.
that would change my rating to a B, just because we don't
Hmm.
really need too many signings. Um, and all the fans are really freaking out right now about our transfer window. But when you're the best team in the league, one of the best teams in the world, you can only sign a few players out there to improve your squad. And those are the
Yeah.
hardest players to sign. So, of course, it's going to take time. So, all the fans are
Yes.
freaking out, but I'm not freaking out at all. We know
Yeah.
what we're doing. We're working behind the scenes. Signing Bruno will change my grade to a B, and then we'll make another left wing signing. We can talk about Vinny in a second, but make a left wing
Hmm.
signing. If we sign Vinny as an A plus plus,
Yeah.
but yeah, not worried.
Yeah. I think that's a great shout. I meant to say this earlier as you were talking. I forgot about it as I started talking, but that's the point I was going to try and make a second ago. Was you guys are in a position where it's way more difficult to upgrade on your team, so it is going to feel like, I'm sure it was always going to feel a little bit slower, a little bit more difficult than some of these other teams. So
Mm-hmm.
it's fair.
And the big talking point, the thing that's been all over my timeline, all over the Arsenal podcast, is Vini Jr.
Yeah.
Um, when it first broke, I was pretty skeptical on it. Right
Yep.
now, I'm like pretty 50-50 on it.
Yeah.
Because there's like two ways of thinking. There's the thinking that his camp is using Arsenal to improve his offer, his contract at Madrid, but there's also that Madrid won't budge, and also there's like some thinking that Madrid are okay with getting rid of him just because him and Mbappe
Yep.
don't really work together, which I kind of subscribe to or like think that's pretty logical. And so they just
Hmm.
don't want to. They have to look like they're putting up a fight because they can't be willing to get rid of Vinny. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm hoping they're kind of doing. They're just kind of playing hardball,
Yeah.
making it look like, oh, we tried, but he wanted to.
Yep.
We couldn't match his offer. That's what I'm really
Hmm.
hoping happens, and we end up with him. But it sounds
Yeah.
like everything is a go for us. If we get a go from Vinny, it sounds like we can make it happen financially, and we'll sign him.
Yeah.
But there's so much talk going on. Who just gotta wait and see. I'm hopeful.
Yeah. It's been one of the more fun things to keep up with this transfer window. Definitely the biggest story of it so
Uh-huh.
far. I think for anybody that's listening that hasn't been following it super closely, I think it's super interesting because obviously Vinny has been having struggles with his contract talks with Madrid for a while. And as I've learned more, it's gotten way more interesting because at first I was like, Real Madrid, they always use these other big clubs in the Premier League and stuff like that to increase their contract negotiations and stuff like that. Like I feel like Tchouaméni even did that with United this very summer to get the current contract that he's got on the table. But the thing with Vinny that makes it really interesting is when people start breaking down the stuff about image rights and what
Yeah.
all that stuff is. And the image rights is basically like any money that you make off of brand deals, sponsorships, and stuff like that. Real Madrid have this policy where like you get 50% of your image rights go to the club. So they get 50% of whatever money you make off your image, which is crazy.
I was gonna say that's absurd. I thought it was just like church sales, but then I heard it was even like any brand deals he does, which is insane.
Yes, exactly. So crazy that they've had that policy for that long. And I guess it's like the whole Galactico, like we're Real Madrid, biggest club in the world. Like we make your brand, you don't make us, which is like a very, very lucrative thing on their side. And so I forget how Ronaldo influenced this, but I think he was one of the first people to get a little bit more of his image rights. I forget what the number was, but then what they really killed themselves was getting Mbappe, because when Mbappe came over, he got 80% of his image rights, which is way more than any other player had gotten up to that point. And now it's gotten to this interesting point where Vinny is now looking at Mbappe and being like, well, I've done way more for this club than this Joker has.
Yeah.
I need at least 80% of my image rights too. But then Real Madrid are looking at it like, can we set the precedent now that any superstar that walks in the building is now going to get 80%? Is it the new baseline just going to become 80% eventually? And so it becomes this very, like, it becomes deeper than just Vinny, and it becomes kind of like, what precedent are you trying to set for the future? And are you going to keep digging yourself a hole by giving up image rights to these players?
Mm-hmm.
Which is what makes me think this is way more interesting. Like, Vinny very well could end up walking away if he feels like he's being disrespected by the contract terms that they're offering. And then, like you said, if things aren't quite meshing tactically, like, do Real Madrid really want to do that and then maybe not even be that good, but then end up caving on something that could hurt them in the future with other players as well? It just became a lot more interesting when I started learning about that and seeing what was going on there.
Yeah. The whole image rights things I also did not know about till this saga with Vinny broke. But it makes a lot more sense how Real Madrid can afford these all these Galacticos and these crazy contract wages, because all they're like, a lot of these contracts are getting like half paid for because these players have huge brand deals, I'm sure. Yep. Crazy they've been getting away with that for so long and are still getting away with that.
Right.
Especially nowadays with social media, you can really build your image through social media, and there's so many other ways of finding players. Yes, Madrid does a lot for you, but a lot of these players don't need that.
Like, could you imagine, like what is Erling Haaland going to ask for? Because he just built his personal brand up like crazy during this World Cup. I'm sure he's doing amazing for himself, just like off the field earnings and whatnot. And if he goes to Madrid, which has been rumored for years now, like if he eventually makes that jump from City to Madrid and however long, like, are they really going to expect for him to sign for 50% of his image rights? Like, I highly doubt that. So,
and Haaland's already making, I just looked this up recently, I was curious, he's making $700,000 a week.
Wow. Yeah, I forgot he got that huge contract from City.
Yeah, recently. 27 million pounds a year, which is like $35 million, but it comes out to $700,000 a week. It's like 520 pounds, but dollars is ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's making so much more than anyone else at City.
Yeah. I mean, deservedly so. So that's going to be a really interesting kind of thing to look at. I'm hoping we get some clarity or some news here because, again, I think it's affecting also what United can do and what a lot of other teams are looking at doing in this transfer window. So we need like the first big domino to fall. I was looking around. I'm like, we got the Barcola deal, which is a huge one. Vini and Real Madrid is a big one. And there's like a couple big money signings need to shift around, and you see the dominoes start shifting all around the rest of the world. So I'm really interested to see what happens.
Yeah. Diamante going to Madrid was huge for us. I think that's really helped our chances of getting Vini.
I've seen rumors that that's also not agreed, though. Yeah. I saw something come out today about Leipzig denying that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. I saw some, so I just assumed it was going to get done, and it was like basically there, but
I think it will, but yeah.
Yeah, so assuming Diamante goes to, that's really nice to help us get Vini. PSG get rid of Barcola. Like, I hope they don't try and swoop in for Vini. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I kind of didn't think about that. That's fair. All right.
Haven't been hearing anything about that. Haven't been hearing anything about that, but just kind of scared that might happen.
I did see one report. It was one single report, like one tweet. Don't even know how credible the source was, but I did hear about that.
And then so preseason, not talking transfers. I think we had like one real preseason game on Saturday against Girona, who just got relegated to La Liga 2. Not a very good team. They just like some of their passes, they couldn't even complete passes. But we played a really fun lineup, which I was surprised for our first preseason game. We had Calafiori in there, Hincapié, Mosquera, and Ben White in the back. Midfield of MLS and Ethan Wanieri, which was really cool. With Kai Havertz too, like crazy fun midfield. And then front three, Azales, which I wanted to see with Gyak, and then Max Daumann at right wing.
Yeah.
Daumann was definitely the standout goal and assist. He was cooking. That first assist, the way he turned him was so nice.
It was nice.
Super nice way he took that, played a perfectly weighted ball to Kai. Goal, just typical of him driving in with a really nice, accurate, low-driven shot with lots of power behind it. And then I think he had like a pre-assist to like a third goal or something. He was cooking, but his tracking back was also really impressive.
Wow. Okay.
He came back, had a couple tackles, like a slide tackle. There was one where he recovered the ball like at our own end line, basically. So he was
Hmm.
very, very impressive. So hoping to see a lot more minutes from him. And then Zala's scoring was great. Just kind of Trossard-esque with a little quicker, just because he's younger,
Hmm.
but cut in, quick shot. He's a really good weak foot. Doesn't do anything crazy. He doesn't really take people on too much. Just gets the ball, goes at goal.
Yeah.
Looks like he's got a great end product, which I love to see.
Yeah, he reminds me of Trossard in the sense that like he just needs like a kind of half a step and he'll just hit
Hmm.
it. Like you said,
Hmm.
he's not like a flashy, tricky, beat you on the dribble winger. He just like let me get a half a step on you and just rifle it.
And apparently, the players have been saying he's in really good shape. Like, he's come into camp like ready to rock and roll, and they've been really impressed by
Sure.
him. So love to see that.
Cool.
Um, Other than that, Nwaneri looked okay.
Hmm.
Don't really know what to expect from him. Whether we're going to keep him, whether they're going to sell him. I'm kind of like leaning towards being okay with getting rid of him. Don't really want to, but I just don't know if how he's going to fit in.
Yeah.
I'll be watching the rest of the preseason a lot for that. Honestly, he's kind of the most up in the air player. I'm looking forward to see how he does. Because Max, I know what we're keeping him. I know what to expect, but Ethan, I really don't know what to expect. So looking forward to that,
Yeah.
and wanting to see a lot more minutes from MLS and midfield because I want to see more of him play there in the regular season.
Yeah.
Apart
Yeah.
from
I'm
that,
excited to see Max Dowman, man. I
mm-hmm.
think I was watching some of his highlights and I think I'm really excited to see him play just a little bit more regularly for you guys. And then also just really quick on Ethan, I agree. That's something I was thinking about when I saw that I mean, obviously he was returning to the team because he was just on loan, but I still look around. I'm like, because I feel like what his ideal positions are what right wing or 10,
Yeah.
and right wing you've got Saka, Dowman, and Madueke that can all play there. At
Mm-hmm.
the 10, you've kind of got a few different options between Odegaard,
Dowman.
Eze, Dowman, even kind of Kai Havertz if you want to play him behind
Mm-hmm.
Gyökeres. It's just like there's a lot of bodies there, and he's a young player that I think could do with be playing like regular first team football somewhere. So
Agreed.
I think unless somebody leaves, it's kind of hard to see how he fits in.
Yeah, I really think he's the type of player that does need a lot of minutes. So I'd love to send him out on loan again and not get rid of him. I
Yeah.
don't think we're going to get like great money for him because he didn't get many minutes at Marseille. So I'd love to loan
Hmm.
him out somewhere, honestly, where he can play a lot of
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah. That would be ideal. I don't know if you guys have like some type of Odegaard succession plan, or if you plan on keeping him for the long term, or maybe give him another season and
Mm-hmm.
try and see if you can cash in. I don't know what his contract's looking like.
Mm-hmm. It looks like I just don't trust him on the ball to really like dictate tempo too much. He looks more like a end product, final
Yeah.
third type 10,
Uh-huh.
where Odegaard's a lot more like middle third
Mid the game.
and
Yeah.
into final third even.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I hear that.
yeah, we'll see how Ethan looks throughout the rest of preseason.
Fair
And then
enough.
we had one of our 16-year-old center backs, Marlon Salmon, looked pretty solid when he
Yeah.
came in after the 33rd minute. He's 16, so incredibly young, but he's tall. He's still super lanky and skinny because he's 16.
Hmm.
But
I've heard really good things about him.
yeah, I like to see how he progresses and get some more minutes in preseason. Don't really expect him to get many minutes in this year. He's 16 at center back, but just want to see how he looks in preseason. Yeah, that's really about it in terms of preseason. And then to wrap up my predictions, expectations, um, floor, I'd say top 3, target, win the league. I mean, floor, honestly, is really top 2 with how the league's looking and how we looked last
Yeah.
year. Target, win the league. Target, win the league and Champions League. Or win the league, I guess. Stretch, win the league and Champions League, but it's not really a stretch. That's just like what we should do
That's
in
like
terms
the
of
next
progression.
step.
Yeah, exactly. Next
Yeah.
step.
Yeah. Maybe stretch is like a treble.
Yeah. There you go. Stretch is treble.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. I like it. I like it. I am I think we've already hit on it, but I'm really excited to see how this whole Vinny saga ends, and if
Mm-hmm.
not, like what that ends up looking like for you guys.
Yeah, and
Because I think if you get Vinny, that's like almost feels like title wrapped up. If not, I feel like the league's a lot more open. So we'll
mm-hmm.
see.
Mm-hmm. If we don't get Vinny, I think we'll go for Rashford, and I think that'll be kind of late will know that United are okay with getting rid of him. So I think he's kind of like a backup option. If we don't get Vinny
Mm,
soon, we'll explore other options out there and then kind of know that Rashford is hopefully gettable.
yeah,
And so that's kind of where I think at left wing, Vinny, number one option, don't get him, look around, and then go for Rashford super late in the window.
I hear it. I hear it. Anything else Arsenal on your mind?
I don't think so. Looking forward to getting some of the players back in the preseason, and then yeah, I'm just really looking forward to these transfers shake out. Yeah, that's about it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Pretty much same with me. Bruno Fernandez, Dallo, and a few other guys basically got back from into training as of today. So really excited to see what the team ends up looking like. I'm excited to see kind of if we keep the same tactical approach with other guys in the team. I don't expect us to change. Like what I'm seeing seems like it's coming from the coach rather than the personnel.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really excited to see how United kind of evolved this season. I think I was a little bit weary, but I think after seeing preseason again, not trying to get too high on preseason, but I really like what I've seen just as far as like the approach to the game and whatnot. So something to keep an eye on there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that is it as far as pod stuff for the day. Just looking forward to watching more preseason, seeing more of how the transfer window shakes out. Next pod will probably be in a couple weeks because you're about to be out of town for a little bit.
Yep.
But then whenever you get back, it should be getting pretty close to the business end. Community Shield will be right around the corner. Premier League season will be right there as well. So I'm excited to like hopefully have a little bit more transfer news and changes in the teams to talk about and be able to talk about the season in a little bit more depth on what we're going to expect.